The elevator doors slid open on the 72nd floor. And there he was, Jordan Hale, my boss, the man who owned half of Silicon Alley, screaming at his CFO like the world was ending. You think I built this empire on your half-ass projections? Get out before I throw you out the goddamn window. His voice cracked like thunder, veins bulging in his neck. But his eyes, those storm-blue eyes, locked on mine for a split second, and the room froze. In that heartbeat, I saw it, not rage, but a desperation that mirrored the ache I'd buried deep inside me for months. The one that whispered his name in the dead of night. I was Alex Rivera, 28 and invisible in the best way. Personal assistant to the king of tech. Scheduler of his chaos. Keeper of his secrets. 5 years in New York had beaten the wide-eyed kid out of me. But Jordan? He was the storm I couldn't outrun. That day, as the CFO slunk away, tail between his legs, Jordan slumped into his leather chair, rubbing his temples like the weight of the world was caving in. Coffee. Alex. Black. And make it strong enough to wake the dead. His tone softened just for me. Always did. Like I was the one steady thing in his hurricane life. I nodded, heart pounding, and slipped out to the kitchenette, wondering if he knew how those little moments, the brush of his fingers when I handed over files, the late-night texts about nothing, were unraveling me thread by thread. By the time I returned, the office had cleared out. The city below us a sea of twinkling lights stretching to infinity. Jordan took the mug without looking up. But then he did, really looked, and something shifted. Sit down. Alex. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. Talks like this usually meant overtime hell or worse. A pink slip disguised as restructuring. But his voice wasn't clipped. It was raw, edged with fatigue that made him look less like the untouchable CEO and more like a man carrying ghosts. I perched on the edge of the client chair, the one reserved for venture capitalists and senators, feeling absurdly out of place in my rumpled shirt. What's wrong? I asked, hating how my voice trembled. He leaned forward, elbows on the desk, and for the first time, I noticed the faint lines etching his forehead, the way his tie hung loose like he'd fought a war with it. Everything. The board's breathing down my neck about the merger. Elena's pressuring me to announce the engagement sooner, says it stabilizes the stock. Elena. His fiancée. The polished socialite who'd grace tomorrow's gala on his arm. All diamonds and calculated smiles. The word twisted in my gut like a knife. I swallowed hard, forcing a professional nod. I'll reschedule the investor calls. We can spin it positive. But he shook his head, eyes darkening. It's not the merger, Alex. It's me. Pretending. Every damn day, the confession hung there, heavy as the humid summer air seeping through the vents. I froze, pulse thundering in my ears. Jordan Hale, the man who'd graced Forbes covers with that predatory grin, admitting he was unraveling? What do you mean? I whispered, though part of me already knew, had known since the way he'd lingered too long watching me adjust his cufflinks last week. His breath warm against my wrist. He stood abruptly, pacing to the window, silhouetted against the skyline like a fallen god. I'm tired of the charade. The parties, the expectations. Elena's perfect on paper, but it's all smoke. And you, he turned, voice dropping to a gravelly murmur. You're the only one who sees the real me. The mess. My world tilted. Heat flooded my cheeks, a dangerous mix of fear and hope surging through me. I'd hidden my own truth for years, gay in a world that still side-eyed it, especially in boardrooms where deals hinged on handshakes and heteronormative facades. Working for Jordan had been my armor, proximity without possession. But now, Mr. Hale, Jordan, he cut in, stepping closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, cedar and storm. Call me Jordan. Just once, the plea in his eyes undid me. Jordan, I breathed, and it felt like surrender. He reached out, his hand hovering near mine, the air crackling with unspoken electricity. Then the phone buzzed, Elena's name flashing on the screen, and reality crashed back. He pulled away, jaw tightening. Go home, Alex. Forget I said anything, but as I gathered my things, legs unsteady, I knew forgetting was impossible. That night, in my cramped Brooklyn walk-up, I replayed it over and over, the city's hum mocking my racing heart. What if his heart was turning toward me? And what would it cost us both? The next morning hit like a freight train. My alarm blared at 5 a.m., the East River's fog pressing against my window like a bad omen. I showered cold, trying to rinse away the fever dream of last night. But Jordan's voice echoed in the steam, raw, real. By 7, I was in the office kitchen, brewing his coffee with hands that shook like a junkie's. The merger loomed, Hale Tech acquiring a rival AI firm. Billions on the line, and I was the invisible thread holding his schedule together. Emails flooded in, caterers for the gala, press releases polished to a sheen. Elena's assistant had already CC'd me on the seating chart, her name looped eternally beside his. I deleted it twice before letting it sit, a thorn in my chest. Jordan arrived at 8:15, impeccable in a navy suit that hugged his broad shoulders. But his eyes were shadowed, like sleep had evaded him too. Morning, he muttered, barely glancing up as I slid the mug across the desk. No Jordan, no lingering gaze. Professional armor slammed back into place. All day, it was a blur, back-to-back meetings where he commanded the room with that effortless charisma, charming analysts while I hovered in the shadows. Notepad in hand, capturing every quip. But under the table, during a lunch briefing, his knee brushed mine, accidental, intentional. Electricity shot up my leg, and I jerked away, heat crawling up my neck. He didn't flinch, just kept talking valuations. But later, alone in the copy room, I pressed my forehead against the humming machine, breath ragged. This was madness. He was engaged. I was his employee. One wrong move, and I'd lose everything. The job that paid my mom's medical bills, the fragile life I clawed out in this unforgiving city. By evening, the gala prep consumed us. The venue was the Met's rooftop, stars above and Manhattan's pulse below. I adjusted his bow tie in the limo, fingers grazing his collarbone, and he caught my wrist, gentle but firm. Alex. His voice was low, laced with warning and want. We can't, but his thumb stroked my pulse point, a secret Morse code that said otherwise. Elena waited at the entrance, radiant in emerald silk, her laugh tinkling like champagne flutes as she air-kissed him. I faded into the background, circulating with champagne trays, watching them pose for photos, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. It gutted me, a slow bleed. Yet, across the crowd, Our eyes met over crystal glasses, and in that glance, a promise flickered, not tonight, but soon. Midway through, during a toast, disaster struck. A reporter cornered Jordan about the merger rumors, whispers of embezzlement in the rival firm. His face hardened. The room's buzz dying as he deflected with steel-edged charm. But I saw the crack, sweat beading his temple, hand clenching his flute. Slipping away, I worked my phone, contact from my assistant network, digging for dirt. By dessert, I texted him a lead, the CFO's shady offshore account. Traceable but deniable. He glanced at his screen mid-conversation, and his eyes found mine across the terrace. Gratitude? More than that, raw, unguarded need. Elena noticed, her smile tightening as she looped her arm through his. Darling, dance with me. He did, but his gaze stayed on me, a tether pulling taut. The night blurred into after-hours chaos. Back at the office by midnight, Jordan paced, phone glued to his ear, quashing the scandal before it erupted. I stayed, ordering takeout, greasy Thai that we devoured on the conference table. Ties loosened. Guard down. You saved my ass tonight, he said between bites. For pausing. How do you do that? See what no one else does. I shrugged, heart hammering. Because I pay attention. To you. The words slipped out, bold and terrified. He set down his fork, leaning in, the fluorescent lights casting shadows that made him look vulnerable. Human. Alex. Last night. I'm in it. But Elena, the board, they expect this life. Rings and heirs and stock prices. His hand found mine under the table. Warm and callous from gym weights. Not boardroom pens. And me? I've spent years building walls. Hiding who I am. Who I've always been. The air thickened. Charged. Gay. I whispered. The word a bridge between us. He nodded, eyes glistening. Since college. Buried it for the empire. But you make me want to burn it all down. My breath caught, tears pricking. In that sterile room, with the city asleep below, he kissed me slow, tentative, then fierce, like a man starving. His lips tasted of pad thai in desperation. Hands cupping my face as if I were fragile glass. I melted into him, years of longing pouring out in a gasp. But as we broke apart, panting, reality intruded. His phone lit up with Elena's call. He silenced it, forehead against mine. This changes everything. No, I thought. It changes nothing, yet everything. Dawn crept in, painting the office gold. But we hadn't slept. Curled on the leather sofa, his head on my chest, Jordan traced patterns on my shirt, whispering fragments of his past, boarding school cruelties, a first love shattered by family expectations. I share mine, growing up in Queens with a mom who worked doubles, coming out at 19 to silence that nearly broke us. You're brave, he murmured, voice thick. I'm just surviving, but as the sun rose, so did the stakes. His assistant, me, now lover, the merger deadline loomed in 48 hours, and Elena's gala speech was set, announcing their engagement publicly. We tell her, I urged, fear coiling. Or we end this before it destroys us. You pull me closer. Jaw set. No. Not yet. I need time to unravel the knots. The day devolved into frenzy. Board meetings where Jordan's charisma masked the tremor in his hands. I fielded calls. My lips still swollen from his kisses. A secret blooming under my skin. Lunch was a stolen moment in the stairwell, his mouth on my neck. Hands roaming. Breath hot against my ear. God. Alex, you undo me. But Elena arrived unannounced, sweeping in like a summer squall, her perfume cloying. Jordan, the jeweler's sending the ring tomorrow. Isn't it exciting? Her eyes flicked to me. Cool assessment. I busy myself with files, but she cornered me later in the hall. He's under pressure. Be careful not to add to it. Warning or jealousy. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. That night, alone in my apartment, doubt Claude. What was I? Rebound? Distraction? A text buzzed. Jordan, with a photo of the skyline from his penthouse balcony. Can't sleep. Thinking of you. Followed by, dinner tomorrow. Real date. No suits. My heart soared. Then plummeted. Tomorrow was the merger vote. By morning, crisis hit. Leaked emails implicating Hale Tech in the rival's fraud. Stock plummeted 15% in pre-market. Jordan's roar echoed from his office as I burst in. It's sabotage, he snarled. Face ashen. That CFO I fired. He's gunning for me. I dove into damage control, pulling strings. But hours later, FBI whispers surfaced. They're coming for you, I said, gripping his arm. His laugh was bitter. Let them. Without you. None of it matters. We holed up in the war room. Pizza boxes piling. His hand in mine under the table as lawyers droned. Elena called incessantly. He let it go to voicemail. At midnight, breakthrough. My dig revealed the CFO's digital trail. Irrefutable. Jordan's eyes lit with fire. You're a genius. He kissed me there, amid spreadsheets, fierce and claiming. But as victory loomed, Elena stormed in, eyes red, voice shattering. What the hell is this? She'd seen the merger files. But worse, a candid photo from the gala, Jordan's gaze on me. Intense, undeniable. Tell me it's not what I think. The room spun. Jordan stood, shielding me instinctively. Elena, you're gay, she hissed, hurt twisting to fury. All this time, the lies, he confessed. Words tumbling, love for me, regret for her. She slapped him, tears streaming. You used me. For the image, then to me, and you, seducing my fiancé. I flinched, but Jordan's arm around me steadied. He didn't seduce. He saved me. She left in a whirlwind, door slamming like Judgment Day. Silence fell, heavy with wreckage. I'm sorry, Jordan whispered, cup of my face, for dragging you into this. But I shook my head, tears falling. I'd walk through fire for you. The merger passed at dawn, stocks rebounding, but victory tasted bittersweet. Reporters swarmed. The board demanded explanations. Jordan faced them head-on in a presser, personal matters aside. Hale Tech stands strong. And yes, I'm gay. Proudly, the world erupted. But in the eye, we found quiet, his penthouse, rain-lashing windows, bodies entwined on silk sheets. I love you, he breathed against my skin. First time spoken aloud. Always have. Weeks blurred into a new rhythm. Scandals faded. Elena's settlement was swift. Generous. Jordan's coming out made headlines. Time cover. Interviews where he spoke of authenticity. The Costa closets. I stood beside him. No longer shadow, promoted to VP, partner in life. But tension simmered. Old allies turned cold. A board member resigned in protest. One night, over wine on his balcony, Jordan confessed fears. What if I lose it all? The empire? I took his hand. City lights mirroring stars in his eyes. Then we build again. Together, romance deepened, stolen weekends in the Hamptons. His laughter free, my heart full. Yet drama lingered, a rival sued. Dredging skeletons. Courtrooms tested us. His testimony raw, my support unwavering. Climax came in a blizzard. Manhattan gridlocked. Stranded at the office. Power flickering. We argued, me pushing for settlement, him for fight. I won't let them bully us, he yelled, hurt flaring. This isn't just business, it's us. Words escalated. Old insecurities surfacing. My fear of being the assistant forever. His dread of vulnerability. You think I'm ashamed? He demanded. Voice breaking. I grabbed his shirt, pulling him close. No. I think you're terrified of losing control. Silence stretched. Then he kissed me, desperate, forgiving. You're right. Always. We made love on the floor. Storm raging outside. Barriers crumbling. Spring brought renewal. The lawsuit settled. Jordan's book on leadership and identity hit bestseller lists. Proceeds to LGBTQ youth shelters. We adopted a rescue dog. A scruffy mutt named Chance. Symbol of second starts. On our anniversary, marking that chaotic gala year, he proposed on a Met rooftop. Ring simple. Vow profound. You turn my heart. Alex. Be my forever. Tears blurred as I said yes. The city our witness. In the end, love wasn't the fairy tale. It was the fight, the fall, the rise. Jordan Hale, billionaire, no more defined by boardrooms, but by the man who saw his soul. And me, no longer assistant, but anchor. In America's relentless grind, we carve space for truth, messy, beautiful, unapologetic. Hearts turned, empires bent, but love, it endured.